breaks into the notion of bounded space, okay, as opposed to spaceless communities. And 1AII would be this notion of affectedness of spatial proximity, of being more affected in Ireland than outside of Ireland. Okay, so now if we have 1B, point I would be now where we are. Okay, so we can see now second, he says, so this is a second point of his first point. It's a bit complex. This is why I want to read this with you. It's a bit tricky. I'm sure this is where you're pausing and reversing back now, or rewinding back, but this is the glory of the digital age. Okay, so now we move on a bit here. Okay, so second, the image implies a certain commonality and coherence, generally expressed either in the functionalist dream of an entity whose institutional parts fit together neatly to form an integrated whole, or in the structural functionist vision of a shared way of life that exists not only in a multiplicity of similar actions, but, more profoundly, in a single and an internally consistent set of rules, values, or beliefs. Okay, so if we actually look at that, that's a 5-line sentence. Okay, so very dense. Okay, so let's just break that around. And he's actually making two statements here. One strictly a functionalist statement, and the second a structural functionalist statement. Okay, we can follow this along in the article. Okay, so let's start that statement again. Okay, second, the image implies a certain commonality and coherence. Okay, so a unification, again, a commonality, a consistency, a unity, a community here, and a coherence. Generally expressed in either the functionalist dream of entity. Okay, so how something functions. We know functionalism, we've discussed this before, okay? This notion of how something, again, by the name, how its relation to the function, its functional role in society. So we see generally expressed either in the functionalist dream of an entity whose institutional parts fit together neatly to form an integrated whole. Okay, so a very mechanist notion here. Okay, so how the machine of community functions or works, operates. Or now we go to the structural functionalist. Okay, in the structural functionalist vision of a shared way of life that exists not only in a multiplicity of similar actions, again, this is the mechanist functional dimension, okay, but more profoundly in a single and internally consistent set of rules, values, and beliefs. Okay, this is the structural element now, okay? So the organized dimension, okay, so the implied, not just the almost systemic functionality of the mechanism, okay, so as how the machine of community works, but also a slightly more aware, okay, political dimension, that we are not just the machine operating, but we are also in control of the machine. This is where the structure comes in, the structural element comes in as well, okay? So, continuing on now in the paragraph. From the perspective that these two ideas establish the heterogeneities, from the perspective that these two ideas establish, the heterogeneities and complexities of the worlds we actually encounter are normally understood in terms of either superficial interactions between distinct communities or transitional moments in the movement from one form of integrity and order to another. Okay, so let's go back over that. So we see we have these alternatives. Okay, we have this resistance. We have these two opposing kind of dimensions here. It's we have this resistance now. We can see a dialectical issue forming here. Okay, so what is the community coming out of? Okay, so from the perspective that these two ideas establish, okay, the heterogeneities, okay, so the almost uniformities of it are heterogeneous. Or sorry, no, sorry, not uniformities, but the differences, okay? So the heterogeneities, the dissimilarities, okay? And the complexities of the worlds we actually encounter, okay, or heterogeneity, the ununiformity and complexities of the worlds we actually encounter are normally understood in terms of either superficial interactions, culture, not superficial, but so these cultural or elements of social interaction upon the imaginary axis, okay? But distinct means, or transitional moments in the movement from one form of integrity and order to another. Okay? So we see now this movement in organized structural relationships, and how this of course community produces identity, but in how this functioning of the community can be regimented and can change and shift. Okay? So, we've gotten through our first point. Again, this is why I wanted to go through this article, because it's very, very dense. Okay? And again, unfortunately, you're not here to be able to talk to me. So, if you have any questions, again, email me. My email address is joe.kerrigan@dbs.ie. So that's joe.kerrigan@dbs.ie. So, folks, if there's anything you need at all, you know yourselves, just feel free to get in touch. Okay, so now we're just going to, I just want to see how much time I have left on this thing. Okay, we're just going to pause there because we're just at about 25 minutes and the camera is about to cut out. So we're going to come back and we're going to get back into point 2. Okay, so we still haven't finished our second point. Or we still haven't started our second point. So sit tight, folks, and we'll get into it. Okay.